they operate. And we need to, in fact, facilitate that. And I think if we had a planning scheme that gave people that sort of certainty, it would be a hell of a lot easier for us today, and you wouldn't all be sitting here listening to me rattling on, because there would be some trust in the way the planning takes place. Thank you very much.
I think I'm feeling like Joe Biden getting up those stairs. We won't go there. Rob, that was an absolute tour de force. Every Australian politician, every councillor, and indeed I think every member of the community should hear this. Now I know we're videotaping this today, but I'm hoping that what you just presented to us can be widely distributed, because it was fabulous. Please join with me in thanking Rob. Rob is prepared to take questions. One of the good things about Frankston is that we have an excellent wine and food society. And that also grew out of the Proudly Frankston campaign. And I'm delighted that the president of the society, Pamela Wilson, is here today, together with Max Butler, one of the founders, and they're going to be on the microphones. So if you've got a question, can you please just put your hand up? They'll come to you. If you just give your first name, you can give your whole name, it's up to you whether you do or not, and then ask you a question of Rob. Thanks very much. We'll take questions.
While we're waiting for questions, I'm happy for that presentation to be distributed, and I've given you a few links. One is to a small video I did during COVID, which just shows what makes up a good street. It happens to be recorded in Brunswick Street because that's where I live, but it just covers off those 5 things I started at the start. The other one is Transforming Australian Cities, which is the document we wrote in 2010. And the last one comes out of New Zealand, and it's the value of good urban design. And it looks at those 5 characteristics I've given you, and it gives all the data behind it, why mixed use works. What are the stats behind it? So they might be useful for you in your deliberations.
2 questions here.
Thank you for that. Rob, this week we've had a planning panel hearing presentations from members in the community, and during the presentations we heard from the council that there's 25% vacancy rates on the ground floor of our commercial area, and I'm interested in how you've achieved those vacancies to be filled by a different use, or how did you create the flexibility that those vacancy rates just don't stay at that level, because there's only one option for use of.
Look, I think the vacancy rates at the moment post-COVID are at levels we haven't seen since the late 1980s in many ways, and there's only one way to fill those, and that's by putting a population close to those areas. I had lunch downtown today, and I've got to say, as I walked down your sort of main street, it was quite sad to see so many properties empty and not functioning. People aren't going to come to that area unless there's some reason to be there. And if people start living in that area, then they are living there, and they'll start to actually develop an economy, as I showed in those earlier slides, that will help the retail. That's where mixed use actually works. We can't expect people to trade if nobody's actually getting out of their cars and walking on the footpaths. And that main road just people drive through, many of them, but a lot of people aren't walking. So you're going to have to allow change to happen, but it can happen sensibly. Some of the change that happened in central Melbourne, I was really saddened to see, because people started taking off control. We used to make people step back when they reached a certain height by 10 metres. But that meant that not every property was a developable property, because they were small or something. You had to, you were limited in the amount of development you could put on the site. Central Melbourne, you had 1 to 6, so you could get a factor of 6 from the site. And then if you wanted anything else, you have to give public benefit, and it could go to 1 to 12. That got taken off. We were going to 1 to 60 at the height of that madness. No city in the world was giving 1 to 60. So you need some very reasonable, simple controls that say you can do good development. And you do need to allow development to come into your centre, but it doesn't have to destroy the character of that centre. But if you don't get density downtown, I'm afraid those retailers aren't going to open up.
Next question.